What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 127 of the Always Race Day podcast. I'm Connor Ferguson here with Caleb Slowhot, Noah Nilsson, and Damon Helgevald. We're about to do a big episode here. We're talking, Damon went to the race at Gateway. He's going to talk about that. We're going to draft our Knoxville World of Outlaws weekend and our Dirt Late Model Dream teams. Start kind of a competition contest we're going to have running through the rest of the season here. And then we have two very fun interviews with Carson Macedo and then Xfinity Series team owner Tommy Joe Martins, who went through just a hellacious week over the past 7 days. So really loaded episode. Hope you guys appreciate it. We probably have just as much fun giving it to you, but for real, it is very cool to be able to deliver this this week to y'all. And if you ever have a hauler break down on the side of the road, none of the NASCAR teams are going to help you, and NASCAR might not help you either. That's not what happened with Tommy Joe, but if that did happen to you, I think the first call you make has to be the Karl Auto Group. I don't want them showing up with a truck that's been to a dirt track. They're going to show up with one of the cleanest damn trucks that they have on the property. So get out to the Karl Auto Group. They're our presenting sponsors. We always appreciate them as well. They allow us to do everything we get to do and that we're privileged to do on this show. So we're going to hop right into it today. Tons of content in this episode. I really think you guys are going to like it. So Damon, Gateway.
Yeah.
I was like, Damon's been really quiet lately, and I didn't realize you were going to the race. And then it hit me when I texted you Sunday night, and you're like, yeah, I just got in the truck going home. I'm like, oh, he definitely didn't have internet today.
No, didn't have internet, sat through a phantom lightning delay, and ended up being a part of the 24 hours of St. Louis. So was definitely an exciting day in St. Louis, to say the least.
Did you protest in the stands?
Yeah, it was so dumb. I tell you what.
Damon's an activist.
When they called the lightning delay the first time, the sun was still out. Like there was not a cloud in the sky. Then their clouds rolled in, but it was never dark. The only reason it got dark is because they decided to keep going at 6:30 at night for the same lightning delay. But regardless, it was a good show. That track actually this year, it finally put up two racing crews, which was not the case last year by any means. They actually were able to utilize multiple grooves in the track. We still saw brakes fall off cars, which I don't necessarily like to see that by any means, but it was a good race. From being in the stands, there was always something to watch. Someone was making some sort of moves. It's a very run dependent track. So if you don't get a good run, you're going to backslide quite a ways. So definitely fun to be there. Second year in a row to get to go to Gateway. And it was really cool to see it at night race at the very end. I think that was the big thing for me that really stuck out, is just how neat that looked at night. I've seen night races at Kansas, but that one was a little bit different because, that race, I don't know what was so different to me, but it just had a better feel about it at the end of the race.
We talked about this on Sunday's episode, I guess, for Monday, but it actually worked out really well for the viewers at home because we were supposed to have both IndyCar and NASCAR at the same exact time. But then IndyCar started and NASCAR delayed and kept delaying. And
Don't remind me.
The checkered flag finished for IndyCar. They did some of their interviews, and then drivers got in their cars for Cup. So it actually worked like perfectly.
So they did it on purpose.
That's what I'm going to go with.
Before, right after we talked to Macedo,
I ran out of beer twice. I don't think you understand.
Damon, there's never been a rain delay that has delivered as much positives as that one, and it delivered just one, and that's all we need.
It wasn't even a rain delay. I didn't get wet.
Lightning delay. I don't care. That's
Only
another good positive from a rain delay. You didn't get wet.
The only wet that I had was the sweat that I was sitting in from when we got there. It was like 9,000 degrees when we got there, and they put new pavement in, and that pavement is hot as hell.
So I don't know. Oh, God, now I'm not going to remember his name, but
somebody tweeted it, and they're like, they melted their shoes.
They had to go to the doctor. It's
Like second degree
Colby,
burns or something
yeah,
like that.
Colby Evans, big
Yeah.
ARC dude. Yeah, and I mean that is insane.
Dale
It-
Jr.
it-
mentioned back in like 97 that happened to him when he was racing the Busch Series.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah, Gateway's
It's
hot.
hot. It's hot. But man, it was a really good show. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this year's show a lot better than last year's because of the fact that they could use 2 lanes. Like last year, it really was 1 lane, bottom dependent. I don't think anybody really wanted to try a second lane either because they didn't know what was there. But seeing them run, a lane, 2 lanes off the bottom in 1 and 2 was neat, and seeing them be able to generate some runs off of 3 and 4 was pretty good too.
Were you even watching the race last year? Didn't you see Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin's racing lines? There was like 4 grooves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna say
That's John Girard, man.
the only thing that last year's race had on this year's was the entire roster didn't take a folding chair to Ross Chastain this year.
Yeah, that's about it. But that's
He
because
didn't last year either. That was the whole joke.
Ross Chastain wasn't too relevant in the race on Sunday.
Here's my question though, and it's a very important one. Did Austin Cindric wreck Austin Dillon on purpose?
No.
Obviously,
No.
NASCAR determined today they won't be penalizing him. The thing that got me very much was, and we got to see a couple different angles now, and it seemed less doubtful. But like, what's funny to me is Austin Dillon gets out, does his interview, and his only thing was, well, he wrecked me on purpose, so he needs to be suspended. Like, it was very much like a mom, look what he did, trying to, like, it just.
Richard Childress said the same thing, Caleb.
Well, yeah, but like the difference is as soon as Austin Dillon came out for his interview, like he came out of the care center, and that was his very first thing. His only response was, well, he just wrecked me, so he needs to have a timeout next week. Like, it was very much like, mommy, look what he did. And like, it wasn't.
I do think a lot of that. I think a lot of that is because of the events that are more recent on our minds, right?
Yeah, I told you guys that this is what's going to happen. You guys were like, no, penalize Chase Elliott. His fans never go through bad times. They're Alabama football. You gotta get them.
That has nothing
They're
to do
Georgia
with it.
football.
Yeah, that is insulting now that I said Alabama. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
dude,
Georgia.
you've
Growing
just
up in
pissed
the
off
years I did.
everybody.
No, I will say too.
We screwed the rest of this episode up because the interviews are really kick ass, and I don't blame you for pausing it now.
Everybody just close their browser.
Don't listen to the last 30 seconds. I will say too, from a fan experience standpoint, getting into the racetrack a lot better than it was last year. It was a lot smoother. They had opened up the lanes a little bit easier. They have traffic coming from 2 separate directions, which was a lot nicer. Instead of funneling everybody down to 4 lanes, they opened up two sides, 2 different directions down. So basically had 8 lanes. What I will say is leaving, they kind of had some issues getting people out of the parking lot. They funneled everybody that was in one parking lot down to one gate. And then they did that to the other parking lot as well. So it essentially was only 1 line going out of where they had 4 coming in. Also, there was beer vendors all over the place. You turn around and there's a beer vendor. You turn around, there's a food vendor. Like, there was no lines to wait for things during that race, especially right beforehand. Like when you're walking the midway area, it was so easy to get around, and there were, like I said, no lines. Entertainment was awesome. It was great to have the pre-race concerts like they did, and Dierks Bentley at the end was pretty cool as well.
That just sounds like a track prime for a lightning delay. The more you say about it,
But
everything else you said aside from the lightning delay thing goes back to my I guess hypotheses. I don't know that
hypothesis is right.
Yeah, that NASCAR, when they try something, it might seem like they take a swing and a big whiff, but the second time around, they're going to take a major step forward, whether the first time was a whiff or not. We've seen it time and time again with all these races. I don't know if Tommy Joe watched the second Knoxville truck race, but that's okay. We'll agree to disagree in some aspects, but the second event always kind of ups the ante, or at least puts things in the right direction. great to see that again this weekend.
Also, did you see the giant fireball that they put on the back straightaway for the second year in a row?
To be honest with you, I was watching the. I was up late working Saturday with all the races that were going on, so I was putting releases up till like 5 a.m. So I woke up, I'm like hazy still, and I had the IndyCar broadcast on for the first part because for whatever reason, I was going to my parents. I'm like, I got this radio broadcast. It's either this or that. So did they show it?
I don't know if whatever they did.
Okay.
Yeah, they showed it.
I'm almost certain that fireball was hotter this year than it was last year, and I was further away. Like it was hot.
They did that for Eldora too, at the truck race, and they would do it behind turn 3, and you were so far away, but it was. I mean, it hurt. Like
they did it for the Dream this year.
It was hot. I think I got second-degree burns just from that. Like it was hot when that thing went off. And mind you, this is at 2:30 in the afternoon when it was still 93 degrees when you're sitting on a metal bleacher while you're at it. But yeah, boy. No, it was a good race. I was happy to be in attendance for it, and definitely we'll go back. Chris Blair and Curtis Francois, the track owner, they've done a fantastic job with that facility. Just the different upgrades that they've done, and can't complain one bit about it.
Can we get Indianapolis Motor Speedway to just hand over what they do for internet for the 500 to every asphalt and dirt racetrack in the country? And then I want a list of the people that refuse to open it, because I think I could name some tracks that you'd be like, yeah, they won't. Yeah, they won't. Screw it. Hickory Motor Speedway, with how I've seen them handle the Landon Huffman thing, they probably won't open that. But hand it to Iowa State football too. Hey, places need to know how to get people in there, with secure internet, especially if you're going to have mobile ticketing.
Yeah, it was hot. But
I never envy that. And
it sucked. It sucked that the internet wasn't very good. But then come to find out, like midway through the first stage, after they got back going, all the data on the pit boxes also went out. Like everything went out, which makes sense as to why the video boards they went black. Like the video boards shut down, and we're like trying to figure out why.
The broadcast got dropped?
Yeah, apparently I heard about that.
Yeah, for like 3-4 minutes or something. And a lot of people.
MRN's broadcast apparently dropped as well.
Theirs dropped for a far longer time. It was like 20 minutes till they were back.
Well, it takes a lot for radio too. That's the worst part.
They were playing an old race. I didn't get on there to see what race it was. Hopefully, it wasn't one with current name drivers racing in it.
No, they actually aired an Adam Petty interview.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Good.
I'm sure somebody still probably thought it was from today, but
Casey Atwood and Jeff Green were leading the field to green, Caleb. I'd be shocked.
I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him.
So as far as ratings go for the race, this one got a 1.27 rating, 2.16 million viewers. That's down from 1.47, so 0.2 up rating last year, and 2.502 million viewers for the race last year. So Damon has kind of swung me back the other way again on this, but it sounds like the Chase Elliott effect is very real. And it'd be a shame if he wasn't in the playoffs, is what I'm trying to say.
You have to also think about the fact that there was several
lightning delay. Yeah, there's other stuff that goes into it. I agree. I was expecting it to be down because that's kind of how ratings work, that you get more viewers the first year of an event. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
I told Connor this earlier when we were talking about it, is when you look back at the 4 races that Chase missed at the beginning of the year, all 4 of those races, they were down from the previous year television wise. Every other race has been up from last year. And now this one, obviously the lightning delay does not help by any means. Don't get me wrong, but the number went down and it doesn't have Chase Elliott in it. I know it's kind of odd, but it just seems like there is a common denominator amongst the 5 races that he has not been in this year. That the TV ratings have gone down with it.
I guess
Crazy,
we'll have to
the
see.
most popular driver people tune in to watch it.
Shocker, right?
Yeah.
You just wouldn't think that it would make that big of a difference, but they're going to be in real big trouble
Well-
for Sonoma because nobody's watching because the Pride card is going to be in the field. So the internet.
The other thing too that I told Connor about is you got to remember Chase Elliott took over 3 fan bases, in my opinion. He had his own that he started when he was coming up. He had Bill's that he took over, which won however many, most popular driver awards during his time. And then essentially he took over Dale Jr.'s because when Junior retired was the incoming of Chase at the same time. And so you had that crossover of the old fans of Juniors wanted to cheer for an old school type guy, and that was Chase because of his last name. And then you have all the Junior fans that were kids. They're like, well, we're going to go follow Chase as well. So you essentially take over 3 of the biggest fan bases in the world, and Jeff Gordon's thrown in there on top of it. You've got huge fan bases. So yeah, I think the numbers kind of justify it a little bit.
It's a shame that they picked such an exciting driver to follow.
Junior's protege.
Hey, they missed the boat on Alex Bowman. What's that, Noah?
Oh, I was just saying Junior's protege took over Gordon's car, and so it's Bill's kid. Yeah, it's just a perfect recipe for like the popular driver.
Yep.
I'd agree with that a lot. Are we do you guys want to draft?
Let's do it.
All right, so we did this for the 500, the Coke 600. The comments were really funny on it. I liked it a lot. Every time we do one of these, like people, like, how could you not pick this guy? And then we just feel stupid, and it's really entertaining.
I don't feel stupid. You do.
Usually it's me. Yes, correct.
I'll feel stupid no matter what happens. So let's do it, man.
Well, and then I'll pick some guy I know because I'm like, yeah, I'm buddies with him. He's going to do well, and he has the worst race of his life, and then I feel partially responsible. So we're going to get into that.
Connor, write these down.
I'm working. I got my notes. I'm writing them down. Do you guys want to do? So there's 2 biggest races this weekend, both on dirt. There's probably going to end up being a little more asphalt races. We're going to keep track of them and kind of set it up next year so it's as fair as it can be, and we'll come up with a big punishment for the loser. But we're gonna try to do like the biggest race on any given weekend on the midweek show, and try to do this on a normal basis. Do you guys want to do the Outlaws at Knoxville first or the Dirt Late Model Dream?
Let's do the Dream, then we can lead into the Macedo with the Knoxville stuff.
Beautiful. That's perfect. All right. So what do we want to do for the order? Because we're at a competition delay here. Do you want me to volunteer to go last, Ian?
I'll take second.
I'll take first if we're just gonna give it out.
Well, I was gonna say if we're all in order, I say we just go down the order like one way or another.
Caleb just volunteered himself to first.
No, I said one way or the other.
I volunteered myself to first. I have no shame.
It's snake draft either way. So yeah, we'll go Noah in the box around. So Damon, I'll take third. Caleb, you're fourth.
How many are we picking here?
How far down do we want to go? 4? Is that all right? 4 for both of them?
4 will be fine.
Cool. Beautiful. All right, Noah, you're up first, buddy.
Okay, so this is for the Dream.
Yeah.
Brandon Overton.
Jonathan Davenport.
We are wasting little time here.
I didn't. Well, he gave me the chance. I wasn't going to mess up.
He's defending winner.
That's fair.
That's fair. That's fair.
Sorry, I wrote Damon's name is Caleb, so we're really off to a rousing start here. I'm kicking it off with Bobby Pierce. Easy pick. You got to get drunk enough to be a Bobby Pierce fan.
Bobby Pierce is cool.
You can always drink more beer, so give me Bobby Pierce.
Give me Hudson O'Neal.
You got 2 picks in a row, Caleb.
Oh, I get 2 in a row. Oh yeah, that's right, because we're doing this. Give me Brandon Shepard.
Cool.
Dude's just picking a rocket factory over there.
I mean, isn't
the
that
chassis design not like fat? I'm not making fun of those guys not being fast at Eldora. That wasn't what I was doing. We're just going to take the other late model friend of the show and take Ricky Weiss.
I'm glad you did that because I was going to have to decide. Let's go. I'm going to go with another. I guess I'm going to go with another Longhorn. Give me Devin Moran.
Give me Chris Madden.
Good pick.
And then I get another one now, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Give me Kyle Strickler.
I don't know. This is tough because I'm down to a couple of guys here. Let's go. Dennis Erb.
You are absolutely correct about this being tough, and I'm having my anxiety about forgetting people because I just did this off my head. He's been really good lately. Don't do that, Caleb. You can't. No. Don't pressure me into picking
I
a
know
bad
what's
pick.
going to happen.
Don't do that. Don't pressure me into picking a bad pick. I got Dale McDowell. He has been absolutely on fire at Eldora, and I saw a stat earlier. I will take him.
I know we're at Eldora, but we made it this far down the list and nobody's picked RTJ. That's who I'm going with.
Oh,
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
One.
I didn't think he was going to last that long, and that's what I figured. I was thinking Connor was just about to take it right before. I got to write him down so I don't forget.
I went past him. There's a couple guys that I would say the same thing about, but he has been the hottest of the ones I was looking at. You got one more, and this is your last one, Caleb.
Yep, give me Tyler Erb. It's either, that one's going to go either way. It's either going to be really good or it's
your records are checkers with that pick.
That's I saved that one for the end, but I figured there'd be a shot. Shit, broke my pencil.
Man, if we were analytic enough to get like value out of picks and stuff, I would certainly just throw Carson Macedo down to be funny.
I thought about it.
Yeah, I don't want to throw a name. Well, I guess no one's ruining my picks. I'm picking between Dalton Wilson, Chris Ferguson, and Kyle Bronson. And Bronson has been very hot as of late. Dalton always gets better, and Hoffman's been on a tear this year too, getting way better. I'll go. I'm going Nick Hoffman.
Damn you.
Oh boy. That left me with the easiest pick left on the board, the 157, Mike Marlar.
Yeah, I fucking knew I was going to.
That was my damn it. Okay, hold on. Now I gotta look again.
I thought someone picked him. I'm stupid.
Those for my next two picks. That sucks. Hold on. You guys really put me on the spot here. I'm the last pick, right?
Yeah, last pick.
Oh, it's okay.
Shit.
There's some big names too.
Yeah, if you want some time, we can take our halftime break now and give Caleb his trivia question.
Yeah, go ahead and give Caleb his trivia question.
Well, we wanted to see if Caleb was a big dirt racing fan or not. So I have three names here. One is a sprint car driver. You got to tell me which one it is.
I feel like this is not, let's see if Caleb's a dirt fan, and this is, let's just parade him to all the dirt fans so that he can be burned at the stake.
We're going to try to do that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's about to happen.
This is like level 1 easy, so you no pressure. It's Willie Overback, Danny Lasowski, or Bryce Kinney. Which one's the sprint car driver?
I have no idea. So.
You gotta take a guess. Pick one of the three.
Give me the names again.
It's Willie Overback, Danny Lasowski, and Bryce Kinney.
So I've heard of one of these. What is the first name? Overbeck?
Overback, yeah.
That sounds like a sprint car driver name, but I'm going to go with Lasowski.
Damn it.
Wow.
Willie Overback was some kid that Damon's dad taught in school.
No, I covered him in him as a high school player.
There you go. And Bryce Kinney was a monster truck driver for the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior.
It sounds almost like a Thunder from Down Under type guy.
we almost got him, guys, and I don't think Lasowski's from Australia. So
no, he is definitely not from. He is from Missouri, actually.
No, but I
Me too.
have heard of him, so that's why I figured that was going to be my best shot.
Good job. All right, what do you got for us, Noah?
Has anybody taken Earl Pearson Jr. yet?
Yes.
Damn it.
I'm just kidding.
No
Okay.
one has taken him.
I want him then. He's mine.
You got him.
Awesome.
Okay, so then what are we covering for Knoxville? Which class?
It's the World of Outlaws
Outlaws.
at Knoxville. The point
Oh, you
standings
know.
I sent you were the World of Outlaws standings and the Knoxville standings. Those are going to be a majority of the field.
I'm looking at this dream lineup like, man, we missed some big names, but we also only had 4 picks, so that's fair.
I mean, I'm solely responsible for half the big names that went later than they should have. So
I don't know. I feel like my lineup is just stacked with top 5.
like, come to think of it, I probably could have gotten Bobby Pierce and Ricky Weiss after Caleb. Oh, that one. Okay, never mind. I'm looking at it backwards.
No, because I thought Pierce was on my list, but he was a little bit further down and he got taken. But I did have Weiss on my list too.
Got to support the friends of the show.
Exactly.
See, I would have picked Bobby Pierce with my second pick instead of Devin Moran, but you didn't let me have that chance.
You can't pander to Bobby with that. He knows.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at the 360 points.
Don't look at the 360 points. That's 410.
No. Listen, as I'm looking at them, I see that we've ran races, but like nobody has a win.
Yeah, so Aaron Reitzel went down and ran there, and I think Chase Randall is making a decision soon on if he's declaring for 410s or 360 points. I don't know what he's doing, so I haven't. They're racing at Eagle tonight too. Very good qualifying run.
Didn't Terry McCarl win a 360 race this year already or something like that? No?
Terry hasn't been raced. I think the winners have just been
410 guys.
Yeah, Reitzel and it was last week. Was it Reitzel again last week? He started with 3 in a row. I think it's just been Reitzel.
All
right, so that means I get to start off.
Are we going the opposite way then?
I think that's fair.
That's fair.
I think that's fair. So we're looking at the 410 class, huh?
And the outlaw points. Don't forget about that.
Well, where's the outlaw points?
I assume that not everybody on these lists is running. Would I be correct in assuming that, or?
I mean, they're all trying to qualify. Oh, for these two.
Yeah.
The top 14 in World of Outlaws points will be there, and everyone almost on that Knoxville sheet up to 20 or 22.
I would assume. I think it's safe to assume that J-Mac will be there, and
Yes.
Rico, and so yeah, there's quite a few names on the outlaw list that'll be there.
So you're telling me that if I pick McKenna Haas or Casey Kane or Buddy Kofoid, I might be in trouble.
2 of the 3 picks, you should be fine.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready for my first pick.
Nice, Caleb.
How about it?
He's doing a little
You
dance
guys
while he
different
does it,
names
so.
so many times. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Caleb.
Give me Retzel.
Aaron Reitzel.
Retzel. Yeah.
That's awesome. Him going 1-1. His grandma's going to retweet this. I know it. Or his mom, I think. I forget who.
What I had in my head and what I said out loud did not match up. But that's the first name that comes to me when I'm looking at this list. So
I'm going to take the guy that you're about to hear on an interview in a second here and take Carson Macedo.
Oh, thank God I dodged a bullet. Donnie Shots.
Damon was for sure going to pick Donnie over Carson, just didn't want the bad look of it.
No, I was taking Donnie regardless.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
I was taking him regardless. I just didn't know if you were.
I'll take James McFadden.
And
You got 2.
Oh shoot, yeah, I do. You're right.
Maybe me and Damon are the only ones who are allowed to be on the ends of the snake.
Give me Brad Sweet.
all right, David Gravel.
God. Talk about the potential.
what list are you people looking at?
The Outlaws.
The Outlaws list.
I thought I'm so lost.
You were supposed to have both lists open.
I know, but where's the okay?
You're looking at the local stars list, and the NFL dirt guys are coming into
I
town.
get you. Okay, so when I was looking at this, I confused myself. I apologize because it gave me the image block and then the link underneath of it. So I thought it was two things. Give me one hop.
You're all good. I'm still trying to figure out.
That's why I was so confused because I thought that you had only sent the one thing, but
Still a bold choice with Aaron Reitzel, but not bad choice.
no, I'm still. I mean, I'm. Is it my turn now?
No, it's my turn.
Honors. I took his pick.
Yeah, you did. There's a lot of ways I can go with this. And this is what I call buying myself a little bit of time. I'm going with Austin McCarl.
Oh my God, I dodged another bullet.
Damn it.
I'm making one late play here.
All right, now it's my turn.
Yeah, you got 2 picks though, so just remember that.
Give me the Italian from California.
There's a lot of those. Are you talking about Rico?
I was talking about Gio.
That's who I
Rico.
I was looking at Rico's name.
No, he knows Rico. Rico is a former NASCAR driver. He knows him.
Yeah.
I know, but Italian from California.
He should have picked Mike Marlar. He's been really good at the truck at Eldora.
I took Mike Marlar.
I wasn't thinking about Gio. I was looking. I was looking at a list and going down, and a name popped up, buddy.
I also picked. I picked Aaron because I thought we were starting out with the other one, but like, I'm pretty sure I.
They're all in the same race.
Well, I know, but when I asked, I thought we were talking about.
See, Caleb does things that make me like wonder how much dirt racing he follows, and then he'll pull shit out of his ass. And I'm like, this is insane that he knows this, but not this.
No, because I literally.
I mean that in the nicest way possible.
I thought that I asked, and I thought I was told the opposite of.
No, you're fine. Sorry about that.
Okay, hold on. I gotta write down what I picked so that when you guys try to screw me over later.
I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down too. You got
Gio.
Reitzel and Gio is your team right now. You got one more pick?
Oh yeah, I gotta pick again. Man, I had somebody that hold on one second here. I know.
God, my boss from work is trying to call me right now.
All right. I do love me some pork, so we're gonna go with Brady Bacon.
Oh.
Get out of here. Close your browser. Log off for me.
Is he back this weekend?
Yeah,
for sure. He is coming back.
I haven't seen for sure, but didn't he run last weekend?
Yeah, but and USAC is running Indiana Midget Week, so I suppose we can do that. If he doesn't show up, we'll let you pick a replacement.
We'll let you pick somebody else if he doesn't show up.
Okay.
Thank God that saying Rico's name there didn't come back to bite me in the ass. I'm taking Rico.
Give me Brian Brown.
Yeah,
Okay. Give me Logan Schuchart.
Oh.
Schuchart.
Thank you.
I like Schuchart better. It sounds cooler.
And
that's the one Damon doesn't like.
Give me Kerry Madsen.
Oh, good pick.
Good pick. Do we know is Brent Marks showing up?
I don't know. I heard it was a lovely weekend for sitting on the porch in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No.
I'm not going to take.
If I was a betting man, I would bet you he's there.
I'm not going to take that risk. I don't want to. As much as I do want to.
You can have a replacement.
I can have a replacement?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can just text me a replacement and we'll figure it out.
And what if I don't see it?
I'll text you before the race.
I'll be there, so it's not going to.
Oh, I'll tell you before the race.
Yeah,
we got two hands on the ground, 4 boots on the ground for Knoxville this week with me and Damon. So you guys are in for 3.
Yeah, I would hope there would be 4 boots between you guys.
Hey, you don't know what happened. Connor might have lost a leg.
I lost in a bet.
When you got hit by that golf cart or whatever?
No, I bet a lot of money on the Coca-Cola 600 team that we put together in that draft. That came back to bite my ass. So
I will pick I'll take Sheldon.
Damn it, you.
I had to go with a safe play, and Sheldon's not very good at Knoxville, so.
All right, well, this leaves me just with. I will take Justin Henderson with the recommendation that Caleb takes Tasker Phillips.
I'm assuming gravel got taken, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose he was only taken at the 6th pick, but that was because he took Reitzel first. And that's not a bad echelon for Reitzel. He's been on nails in Knoxville this year.
I take gravel with my 2nd pick, therefore. I made that a strategic play.
Oh, yeah, it was very strategic. I wanted to take Tasker because he's been a lot better this year, but I can't justify not going with Hendo. I think I'm the only person in the world that calls him that, by the way. So.
Yep.
No, actually, maybe I should have a dirt. Maybe we should get that on Johnny Gibson's radar. I just don't want like any more nicknames that are like Firecracker Molly or something.
Never heard that one.
I don't like the dumb nicknames. That's all I'm saying. Hendo is just Henderson with an O at the end.
So
you got Henderson. So what do we got here, Caleb?
Yeah, I'm giving Caleb time to think.
I get you.
I'm just looking at who else we got.
There's some good ones there. I don't want to give you any ideas, but
I gave him a recommendation, a glowing one too. He's a family man. He's got a kid named Grain.
A friend of the show.
Also a friend of the show.
All right, put him down then.
All right, Caleb's taking Tasker.
That's it.
Man, Sawyer Phillips is going to be pissed that you took his brother over him.
Sawyer hasn't been on the show.
We'll get Sawyer on sometime. They're both great people. I haven't met the third brother. I assume he's very nice too.
Also, Sawyer didn't make the A main of the Knoxville Nationals.
That's right. Tasker has been. I'm going to do a story on him coming up soon. You guys should all read it. He made a big run to the A main of the Knoxville Nationals last year. Started relatively high on kind of a shoestring, part-time farmer budget, and he picked up a ton of sponsors, and it's just giving him the ability to drive the car closer to the edge, from what he said to me. So we've done a couple of good interviews with him the last few weeks. Check those out on YouTube, and that story will be coming pretty soon. The guy, it's just a dream story as far as what that race does and what you can do for yourself during a week in August in Iowa. So you guys got anything else, or are we going to let him get into Carson Macedo?
I think we let him get into Carson Macedo.
Let's hear from Carson.
No, that was the most AI sounding.
Yeah, I started to stutter, and I was like, don't do it.
All right. Appreciate y'all for listening. Hope you enjoy both these interviews. They were both fantastic. I think you guys will like them a lot. And you can bonk me because I think at one point during the Tommy Joe interview, I was talking about haulers failing on him, and I said go down on you. So look out for that. That's a good.
I didn't even catch that.
I thought you guys were laughing at me when I said it. So I was like, shoot, I shouldn't have phrased it like that.
That's really funny. I would have not even remembered that happened until you brought it up. So.
No harm, no foul. Enjoy both these guys. Appreciate y'all for listening. And another shout out to the Karl Auto Group. We love them. All right, guys, we are now joined by a very special guest. Once went back-to-back 20th best Xfinity racing driver in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. It says that in his Twitter bio, and he's on our podcast this week after basically a weekend of hell, it seemed like. Tommy, thanks a ton for taking the time to come on our show, our little show over here after the weekend that you guys had at Portland.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. I want to start with an easy question, just get to know you a little bit. You went to Ole Miss, correct?
I did.
I want to know how much you hate Mississippi State.
Gosh, like a 1 to 10?
Yeah, that's fine. Or you can talk crap about Dak Prescott for a little bit. It's really
You know what's weird about it is like I really don't hate Dak, but I tell you that the Mississippi State hate is probably like a oh gosh, probably it's way up there. It's probably like a 9 out of 10.
I love it. I love it. We're big into college football in Iowa, so Iowa State gets a lot of the same vibes to me, I guess, on a smaller scale than Ole Miss State.
Yeah, I would tell you that the lead up to that game is about as nasty as it's going to get. So that week is the thing is like anytime we're talking about college football, it stinks because I mean, I would go to so many games, when I was there or kind of around in the area, even close to living in Oxford. I mean, I basically took the 7-year path to getting a degree. So I took my time because I was racing at the time, kind of going back and forth. And even when I was living in Nashville after college, I mean, I would still go back to so many games. But now, with being in the Xfinity Series and being in the Truck Series and racing so much, I mean, during college football season is just extended racing season. So I'm not able to get to as many games as I'd really like to get to. I mean, Ole Miss has been so cool. They've reached out and extended an invite to games and wanted me to go to games. And I just can't make the time to get there, it seems like.
Would you ever drive an Xfinity car out of the tunnel and lead the football team on the field if logistics worked out?
Well, we talked about it. We talked about doing it. And the problem is I keep driving for small teams or owning small teams. And it's just hard for us to spare a car.
Yeah, so this weekend, we got to push for that. We're going to campaign for that. We're going to do what we can. I don't know if we'll make it happen on our end, but we'll certainly try to help you take credit if it ever does happen for you. But you guys went out to Portland, and you have one hauler that breaks down in St. Louis. You have another that breaks down in Kansas City. And I got to imagine for you, just in those moments, and you kind of pointed out, your logistics and organizing and not being really prepared for two haulers to go down on you. But what was going through your head when all those issues were piling up?
I mean, it's just a very helpless feeling. We constantly work on deadlines, right? Every weekend is a deadline for sponsors, drivers, all the people that are basically paying our race team and funding us to go racing. So when you have breakdowns like we did, immediately your concern turns to, are we going to be able to meet a deadline? And what are the solutions to getting our stuff there? And it's a very helpless feeling to know that your stuff is just sitting on the side of the road and it's up to you to come up with a plan of how to fix it. And that was it. I mean, that was probably the most challenging week that I've ever had as a team owner, or really just involved in racing at all. Luckily enough, when I was just driving for Carl Long or BJ McLeod or any of the teams that I drove for, if those things ever happened, I promise they never got to me. So really living through it this week was really, really tough. And I just can't thank everybody enough for all the help that I got from all the people really close to the race team that I reach out to in these kind of times. And also our hauler drivers for just being absolute troopers and managing all this. I mean, we literally got a guy out to Portland and then basically flew him back to St. Louis to then pick up another trailer and then drive back by himself. I mean, now that is the ultimate trooper move right there. He didn't even get to enjoy the race in Portland. He was busy driving a truck from Sonoma, or from St. Louis to Sonoma. So, I mean, that's being pretty dedicated. So, I mean, I've seen how everybody responds in kind of in crisis here in the team, and all the drivers, all the sponsors were so really so understanding. And it really just has taught me a lot about crisis management, because I could tell you last Wednesday was probably the darkest day. And then on Thursday, you're kind of coming up with solutions. And by the time we got to Friday, even though the haulers were very late getting there, NASCAR was so understanding of our issues and even helped out when the second truck broke down in Oregon. They actually helped out, coordinated with the track for me to be able to get a truck out there to kind of finish pulling our trailer the rest of the way. So even through all of it, I feel like everybody worked together really well, and just really, really glad it's over. Now we're in the solutions phase and how to make things better.
I suppose it, was magnified too by the fact that you guys were delayed the previous week. So were essentially behind a day too than what you would normally be.
Right. I mean, that Tuesday start compared to what was really going to be a Monday morning start from us. I mean, it basically cost you 24 hours, right? Which when you look at us showing up, what was essentially 6 hours late, I mean, that winds up being a pretty big difference, because even through all the trouble there, we probably still would have made it on time if we weren't delayed. But at the same time, that's something that everybody kind of had to fight through, including the NASCAR haulers and everything like that. So when I look at, what we can do better, obviously, we've looked at a lot of options now, and clearly, we need to have better backup plans. And it's something this is teaching me, as a guy that's running a team really for the second year. I mean, Martin's Motorsports was my team, and I would tell you that I made a lot of decisions involved in those 2 years there in Martin's Motorsports, and even the times when we were in the truck series and everything else. But really here at Alpha Prime, I mean, I'm running all the day-to-day operations more so than I ever did. So I'm kind of learning here. This is really my second year of doing it. Definitely the first year of doing it with 2 trucks on the road ever in my life. So I'm learning a lot about the scale and some of the contingency plans we need to have.
Now, tell us too, so I know there were some comments on Twitter and stuff like that, kind of giving you crap for not having 2 drivers on the road together, and kind of walk us through, you kind of explain that situation, but, tell us why, you don't have 2 drivers on the road for a semi compared to like maybe some other teams.
Yeah, and it's something that I've pursued now multiple times, and I've dealt with it a lot of different ways. I've done this before in past years with Martin's Motorsports, and even with here with Alpha Prime, where I've just gone out and got another driver. Right? It's not hard to find another driver. There are plenty of drivers that want to help and want to do it. That's not really the issue. The issue is for your primary driver, they feel a lot better about the whole situation if it's somebody that they know, that they have driven with, that they are comfortable with. You got to think about it, man. They're going to get in the back seat of a trailer and truck while it's rolling down the road and try to sleep. And if they don't know, it's a stranger, right? And that's kind of a weird thing to ask somebody to do. And they're not super comfortable doing it. And I've done it, but it's not really a great situation. So I think the chemistry there is an important thing. And I had both of our truck drivers tell me that they would rather just do it solo. They asked the people that they knew that they were comfortable with. Nobody was available. They felt like leaving even on Tuesday, if we were able to stick out and not really have major issues, which we wound up having major issues, that they felt like they would be able to make it no problem. And really, they really weren't that far off. If you think about it, ultimately, I mean, we missed the deadline by basically 6 hours, and we had, without a doubt, about 20 hours worth of issues. So I see that comment, and obviously I think it's coming from a place of a little bit of ignorance, because I'm dealing in the day-to-day of it, and I understand what these guys are telling me that they need. So obviously it's not me cutting corners. It's not about trying to save money, because I mean, good grief, I wound up spending the money anyway. It's not about that. It's just about what are these drivers comfortable with. And in both cases, I had guys that were really more comfortable doing it solo.
So I know obviously it's well documented kind of for most of us and a lot of our listeners and people that are going to tune into this, but kind of explain, what went down for you guys, what happened, what you found out since then as well a little bit.
Yeah. So what essentially wound up happening is both the trailers left Tuesday morning. One of them had issues with some tires early Wednesday morning, and really through that Tuesday night, got those handled. Had another truck, basically the other truck had a problem with the engine early Wednesday morning. This is all like over the course of the night. I was getting these phone calls, so that wasn't a lot of fun. By the way, I tell all my truck drivers, just to preface all this story, I tell my truck drivers, if everything's good, do not call me. So
you knew
anytime I get a
the
phone
second you
call,
got a phone call, yeah.
yeah. So as soon as I get a phone call at 2:00 in the morning, I already know something is horribly wrong. And they must be stuck on the side of the road somewhere. So I had one trailer or one hauler call me and say, okay, we had a tire blowout, fixing that. All right. And then I had the other hauler call me and tell me, well, I'm having a little trouble with the DEF system in the truck. But it seems like I can clear it out. It's okay. Okay. And then they both get going. The other trailer has another blowout shortly after that. And they realized that the problem is with the airbags, and they had blown an airbag out, and they were sitting there waiting for service for a little while. The other one winds up having more trouble with the engine and the DEF system and winds up getting stuck in St. Louis, which was kind of the closest place they could kind of get to with the problem they were having. And then they were kind of sitting around really waiting for a diagnostic pretty much all day on Wednesday. We were trying to figure out, could we fix this and get going again? Or did we need to come up with what was a major backup plan, right? And then the other trailer kind of got patched up, tried to go down the road a little bit more. It was all the way to Kansas City. And eventually the airbags were just not working, which for all the listeners, airbags basically lift the trailer up to where it's not riding so low on the tires, and what was causing the blowout. So couldn't really get it fixed. So basically I had a trailer out of commission and I had a truck out of commission. I decided at the time the move was to send the working truck back to St. Louis, which was about 4 hours back the other way, to pick up the trailer that was working. And then we would just make up a plan to figure out the rest of it. And the rest of the plan involved sending a smaller trailer, what would really be considered kind of a late model trailer. It was a 48-foot trailer from our shop with a dually pulling it to grab most of the stuff out of the trailer that was broken down and continue all the way to Portland. So that's essentially what wound up happening. Is we had a trailer that was stuck in Kansas City. We had a truck that was stuck in St. Louis, and it was us trying to figure out how to get everything up there. And then eventually, as the truck that was working with the trailer that was working got to Portland, the truck broke down in Oregon. So then we had to send a truck from the Portland Raceway to try to pick up the trailer and bring it the last 2 hours to get it there. And then we still have the truck trapped up there. We have now got a rental truck that has got our stuff over to Sonoma with the other trailer. So I now have 3 trailers in Sonoma, and now our plan is figuring out how to get everything back.
Yeah, Tommy, obviously, like, just a lot of moving parts to that. And I know NASCAR takes a lot of heat for some of the decisions or penalties or, whatever they seem to do. I wanted to know how much of a help were they over the course of the past 7 days?
Oh, extremely understanding. Jason Brownlow and Wayne Otten. Wayne Otten is the series director, Jason Brownlow, assistant series director. They were both extremely helpful and understanding of all the problems we had. We were in communication with them pretty much the whole time. I think they expected some breakdowns. They expected some trouble. I think they knew this, right? With that kind of late exit getting out of Charlotte. I think they kind of knew there would probably be some problems. And the way they explained it to me when we got there was, we knew there'd be an issue and we're sorry that it was you. So they didn't think it would be both of my trucks and trailers. But ultimately, I think they knew that put us in a pretty tight deadline.
Apart from NASCAR, was there any other teams that reached out and offered any assistance at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of teams reach out, and that's the thing. It's such a tight knit community. It's a small group around in the NASCAR world. And we had a lot of people kind of offering to help, but it was about what made sense. And if all the help was coming from Charlotte, that really wasn't a lot of help at the time. So we were trying to come up with other plans and the other people that we knew. And I mean, I have never used my phone as much as I have used it in the last week of my life. It has rang off the hook. So, I mean, there's been so many people that have offered help, but it was really more about, what made sense. If I borrowed somebody's truck, when was it coming back? How many miles was I really going to put on it? A trailer, would it fit my pit equipment? would that fit in there, or was there no sense in bringing it? So there was a lot of other stuff going on there, but ultimately, we had so many people offer help, and I'm so thankful for all the community reaching out and trying to help.
Yeah, that's why I was curious, because that's the kind of unique thing about racing is I feel like it's the one sport where you help your competitors more, than anything else. The same guys that you're competing against are the same ones that will loan you a tool or a trailer or offer assistance. So that's always cool. Just, didn't make sense, at the right time, but.
Yeah, I was going to say too, Tommy, and thanks again because I think you've already touched on things that I didn't realize went into the issues, like the hauler drivers, wanting to have a relationship if they're going to be going up and down the road with each other. I think that's a really unique aspect that a ton of fans aren't taking into account.
Yeah, and that might be as simple as I'm hiring 2 drivers for a team. I mean, a lot of bigger teams wind up having 2 drivers per team, just to try to avoid, the additional stress on one driver and all that. Obviously, we're not junior motorsports. I don't have 2 drivers per team, but at the same time, those guys are looking for that comfort whenever they're going to be driving a really long haul. So ultimately, that's the longest one we've got. So if I had 2 guys that were willing to do it by themselves, I'm not going to tell them, I'm not going to force somebody on them. But I think ultimately, what I've realized now is whether they like it or not, we probably want to have 2 for those long hauls. In this instance, though, guys, keep something in mind. If the trailer's sitting on the side of the road, it doesn't matter if you got 2 drivers or not, because they're both just going to be sitting there. And now you got 2 guys that you got to try to figure out what to do something with. So it wouldn't have really helped me a whole lot at the time, the fact that we had 2 drivers. That really didn't cost us any time other than maybe a couple of hours when the guys rested. But I'm just telling you, they didn't really rest a whole lot. And
it sounds like you don't need the 2 drivers, but if I can pitch a solution to you, I don't know how many apply for the job when it comes open, and I don't think me or Damon can drive a hauler. But if you need a couple guys to come down and have some beers with all the hauler guys, we can match them up chemistry-wise around a fire.
Okay,
give us about 8 or 10 beers.
I can tell you, we're a pretty good beer drinking team already. So I know you guys would throw right in.
I like this already, man.
So you mentioned the long haul, obviously, from Charlotte to Portland, and I know that after Sonoma there is an off week. In your opinion, do you think that maybe moving the off week to before Portland to kind of give teams like yours the extra chance to prepare for that long haul would be beneficial, or do you think it makes any difference at all?
I think it would make a lot of difference. In fact, that's the exact same thing that I told NASCAR last year when they asked me, what could we do to make Portland better? I said, give us a break week beforehand and afterwards. So yeah, I would definitely like to see that happen. But at the same time, there's a lot of considerations that goes into the NASCAR schedule. And they did give us a break week before Charlotte. That's why our cars were prepared well, and they can't control the weather. I mean, right? I mean, so we had our call, basically our cars were ready Saturday. So the day of the Xfinity race there in Charlotte. Obviously we didn't get as far into that race as we hoped we would. And really, I guess our haulers in a pinch could have left on Sunday, but instead we were kind of stuck waiting for the end of the Xfinity race, which really didn't end until super late Monday night. So ultimately, I don't think it was that big of a factor. It was probably more of a rain factor than anything else, being honest. But at the same time, yes, I mean, I would love to see that week be opened up. I mean, it's not just the fact that there's a race in Portland, guys. That this is something to keep in mind. It's the fact that it's a road course race in Portland, which there is more care and maintenance that goes into road course cars than pretty much any other car we have other than a speedway car. You have to replace brakes and rotors and service all that, and cooling for all the brakes and rotors. And the transmissions have to be gone through, and the drive shafts have to be gone through, and every single part in the rear end has to be gone through, because how many times you wind up locking the rear end up and wheel hopping and everything else you got. It is so stressful to suspension parts and the chassis itself. and it just takes extra time. Our guys are awesome. They're doing it on a small team anyway, but a road course car, it just takes a little bit more time, and that kind of bleeds into a short week. We call them short weeks at Alpha Prime, where it's a week where the hauler has to leave before Wednesday is a short week. Because really what you're looking for is a 3-day work week. Well, in the case of Portland, you really got a 1-day work week. So pretty much all the work has to be done the week before. And if it's not, then you're going to wind up being late.
In that same area, I know a lot of fans ask for more standalone Xfinity and truck events, specifically on short tracks that maybe haven't had a cup race in recent years and stuff like that. Where do you kind of sit on that opinion? Because I know it's got to be hard for you guys to find pit crews when the Cup Series is racing elsewhere that weekend, right?
Yeah, and that's a good observation, because so many of us use crews that are affiliated with Cup teams. And that's one of the reasons that Portland race was a 3-minute break, is just because of the logistics of trying to get all the pit crews there versus where they were in St. Louis for the truck and Cup race. So that's kind of the big factor. All the pit crew guys really are connected very much in all 3 series. So triple header weekends, honestly, are some of the easiest weekends on those guys, on the pit crew guys. And I think that's why NASCAR's kind of built the schedule the way they have, is a little bit of an understanding of kind of how the industry operates and how that side of it operates. Personally, I would tell you, my opinion is that more standalones is perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with the 3-minute breaks that we do. I'm sure that all the viewing audience at the Portland race wouldn't say that really hurt the racing experience and the viewing experience at all, the fact that we didn't have live pit stops. So I've never seen that as an inhibitor for us. And in fact, when we don't have live pit stops, that's actually a cost savings for us. And the bigger of a team that we are now with 3 pit crews versus 2 or 1, I can tell you those savings are multiplied. So is it something that I'd like to see all the time? No, but more of them wouldn't be a problem for us. And I don't really think it hurts the viewing experience.
So you go from Portland down to Sonoma, and so back-to-back road course races. Is that a benefit? Is that maybe a negative to have a back-to-back road course, because you have to service these cars on the road? You're not in your normal shops, I'm guessing, servicing cars, or where do you guys lie on that?
I think in theory, it's a really good idea. Honestly, I'll tell you that, Damon. I think the catch here is just our team and the scale that we are. It's really difficult to pull off. So that's not really a discredit to the idea, because I think teams that are a little more well-funded, what they're doing when they run a hauler down the road here to a race like Portland and Sonoma, what they're doing is sticking 2 cars in the trailer, and that's it. They got 1 Portland car, they got a Sonoma car. Even if the Sonoma car is not completely ready, what they know is if they wreck in Portland, okay, we might have to thrash a little bit on this other car while we're out here in Sonoma, but we can get it ready. Our team didn't have that. We really had 1 backup car for 3 cars. And so more than anything, it really affected how our guys were able to really run the race. Now, I'll tell you that everybody did a terrific job. I mean, Leland was sick as a dog when he got in the car and managed to take care of it for that first little bit. And Brad Perez subbing in really did a great job all the way up until the last corner, taking care of our stuff. Jeffrey did a great job taking care of it. And so did Dylan Lupton. And everybody kind of knew the way that I pitched it to them was, what we're really running is an endurance race. And it's not just at Portland, it's also at Sonoma. Like, you're not going to be good at Sonoma if you don't get through this race cleanly. And so I just wanted to, it's not like we're sitting here telling them, hey man, don't go up there and race. Like, that's not what it is. It's just that, hey, just know you're really running 1 race. It's just is going to take 2 weeks, because we had the same stuff happen in the Xfinity Series before, when we were running double headers, like during the COVID year in 2020. Richmond, we ran a double header. Dover, we ran a double header. And I was driving the car at the time, and I just told myself, this first race doesn't matter. Like, if it was a 400 lap race, when we ran Dover, I think we ran 250 lap races. if I told you you had a 300 lap race, would you really be racing somebody super hard on lap 146? Probably not. And so that's it. I just tried to change the mindset of some of my guys as we went into it, is go, okay, look, you got a 150 lap road course race that you're about to run. And yeah, we're going to get to make some big adjustments during the middle of it, during kind of the break week. Right. But ultimately you kind of got to run the same car here. And if you go tearing it up, it's really not going to be very good for the last half of the race. And I think all the guys really took that to heart, and I think they did a great job.
I think I mean that's insightful to me. Like I think that's a good way to put it, is essentially when you're on the West Coast too for both those races, you have to kind of view it as one long race. You mentioned the Honeyman being sick and the driver substitution. Can you walk us through like how that all comes about? Because that was on top of everything else that was going on. So walk us through like when a driver might need a substitution or is in that situation, like what all goes down in that case?
Well, Leland was very forthright with how he was feeling. He told us very early how sick he was the night before. When we got to the racetrack that morning, my job was just finding out who was even available as a backup. I mean, the problem was we were in Portland. It's not like you just walk over there in the cup garage and grab somebody. We didn't know who was even licensed. And of course, everybody looked at me and said, well, Tommy Joe, just get in the car. I was like, I don't have a driver's license this year. I haven't gone through the process of getting it. So I wasn't even approved. I mean, I know that I would be in a pinch here, but you can't get all that done while you're at the racetrack. There's a lot of stuff that you got to do, medical forms that you got to clear, and other things that have to go into that before I could just get in a race car. And also
part of that too is sorry to interrupt you. Is part of that too, like if they fit in the seat? No, I'm not trying to imply that you don't, but that's that's it, Connor. And I was, look, I'm 6'3". I'm not even going to fit in the seat. So okay, so I was safe there. Thank goodness.
Yeah. So when I knew that Brad was there, Brad has worked for our team before. He worked for Martin's Motorsports for 2 years as our tire guy, and is really a great guy. And when I knew he was there with his, road course experience, it just made a lot of sense. Luckily and smartly, he brought his stuff out there to the West Coast. He had all of his gear. He was ready to go. And so with that, we were able to kind of put him on standby. And so Leland did practice and qualifying, did a great job, qualified 21st, first time in an Xfinity Series on a road course. Was the highest qualifying Alpha Prime car, right behind Jeremy Clements and some of the guys that are doing this every week. So I was really, really proud of him for that. And then we told him, look, right before the race, honestly, it was about as bad as he looked all day. I mean, he was pale, and he had food poisoning and had been throwing up all morning. And right before he got in the car, we just told him, look, you're going to have to be really honest with us. We're going to have Brad here. If you don't feel like you can do it, let us know. It was a hot day out there in Portland. Road course races are probably the hardest you're going to work inside of a car. And I think, ultimately, like, that's it. It's just, he was really honest. He told us, hey man, I can't make it. We had Brad ready to go, and Brad was able to hop in. Luckily we had a 3-minute break, right? And what a perfect time. If you're ever going to have to do a driver change, what a better time than a 3-minute break where you're able to actually get the guy in there and do it the right way.
All that good luck for you came right at that moment this weekend.
Well, I wouldn't say it was the best luck ever. I mean, I wound up getting involved in a crash at the end of the race.
I'm curious of, like, so when you have to make a change like that, like how difficult or how smooth is the process when you go to NASCAR? Because I'm assuming they have to be pretty heads up and knowledgeable about, that's taking place and who's getting in the car and all that. So is it just as simple as going to somebody and saying, hey, this is who's, going to be in the car, or is it more of like a difficult process?
I mean, there's a little paperwork involved on the back end, but in the moment, it's pretty much as simple as just letting the series director know that you might have to make a driver change. And they're always very understanding of what's going on, especially when it revolves, or it involves driver health and safety. So in that case, that's what we had. We had a driver that was really not feeling well, had already had to go to the infield care center, was really trying to tough it out, and really did the best he could. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have ever had food poisoning. I have. You do not feel like really doing a whole lot, much less driving in an Xfinity race at Portland. So the fact that Leland was able to gut it out as much as he was really pretty impressive. And then luckily we were just able to have a good substitute sitting right there in the pit box.
Is he back to full health then?
Yeah, Leland's all good. Actually going to be out there in Sonoma racing for, I believe, racing for Emerald Gase, kind of in a fill-in role as well. So what's funny is we had an Emerald Gase guy, Brad, fill in for us this past week, and now we're kind of, I guess we're loaning Leland over there to their team this weekend in Sonoma.
So does, you mentioned the fact that you don't have your license. Does this incident like this, I know you said being 6'3" wouldn't necessarily fit, but does an incident like this make you want to have that as a backup plan possibly moving forward?
I think it makes the crew guys want me to be the backup plan. I can tell you that. It wouldn't have helped us a whole lot in this moment because I had a spot. I was actually spotting for Dylan Lupton over turn one. So, Joey Gase and I had that conversation when we were up there. He was spotting for Patrick Emmerling, I believe. And I think Emmerling was having some health issues at the time. And there was kind of a scramble of who was going to get, because at the time it was like, well, Brad will be my backup driver. Well, now Brad's sitting in my car and Joey's going, wait a minute, wait, do I have to get off the stand and go down there? And so we actually had one of the spotters who was, I believe it was Glenn McGowan, who was spotting for Stephen Parsons, actually took Joey's radio, and Joey ran back to pit road, I think, to maybe have to sub in. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I don't think there was a substitution, but that's what you had going on. You had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes.
Man.
No, I'm glad you brought up Joey. We had him on a few weeks ago. Being from Iowa, we've followed his career for a long, long time now. And he was kind of telling us about how the purse system and everything in NASCAR, the way it was set up with the new cars coming, and that's why he wanted to start a team in the Xfinity Series. I was going to ask you, as far as, the money you guys get from NASCAR, rewards money, standings wise or normal race weekend wise, what would you want to see? Like, what's one thing you'd want to see out of NASCAR the most in that area?
Just paying us more in general.
Sure. I could say that, or assume that, I suppose, but that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
it's a safe answer too.
Is that? Yeah. I mean, that's really it. I've been extremely public about this, which is why I don't mind telling y'all. I mean, I do think the teams need to get paid more. In the truck series, they especially need to get paid more. And in the Xfinity Series, there needs to be a bump as well. Costs have gone up. It's everything that you do in life, and they definitely have gone up in the racing industry as well. And really, when we start talking about the television revenue, it's something that's clearly being worked on moving forward. The idea of probably sharing a little bit more with the teams in general, I think, is something that the Race Team Alliance is working on. And I think as we kind of approach the new deal of the television agreement, there's been a lot of talk about the Xfinity Series going to streaming. And with that, there'd probably be some more revenue in there for the teams. And I think that's a good thing. So I think everybody's kind of addressing it, but it is without a doubt the elephant in the room. Everybody always wants to ask, well, why doesn't such and such have a ride? That's a great driver. Why doesn't he have a ride? And it's like money. Money's the reason he doesn't have a ride, or she doesn't have a ride. That's pretty much it. It's that the teams are not operating in a profit. We are operating at a tremendous loss, and we have to try to make up that difference in sponsorship revenue, which that might not always be from the most talented available driver. That's only going to happen when the team already has inherent sponsorship, most likely from just a rich owner that just sees this as something fun. Like Scott Borchetta, that owns Big Machine Racing, he's doing okay, guys. Like, he's not really hurting for money, and they put Big Machine Seltzer on the side of the car, for crying out loud. So that's a sponsor and owner all in one. That's the ideal, and he's going to probably pick who he thinks is the best driver out there. This year it was Parker Kligerman, and I think Parker's done a really good job, right? So that's the perfect situation. Is as a team owner, we have the sponsorship in-house, and it's all good to go. We have a salesperson at Alpha Prime Racing. We are trying to sell sponsors all the time, but ultimately, a lot of the times this gets tied to drivers, where the driver already has the sponsorship and they are really shopping around team to team. And it's up to us to try to pick who we think fits our team the best and who we think is going to do the best job.
You guys got anything else for Tommy?
The question I've got, so you've got kind of a up and down record at Iowa Speedway. I know you finished 11th there. So what's your opinion of that track being missing from the schedule?
Tragedy. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Just a tremendous NASCAR racetrack. And that's it. Just a perfect track for stock cars, a legend helped design it. Rusty Wallace, and I think it has held up ever since. I think it puts on a great race. Was a ton of fun to race, and I got to race there a decent amount. Man, really missed that place being on the schedule. When I look at all the things that we're doing, guys, part of me feels like we've lost part of what is really NASCAR, right? We're looking for more short tracks on the schedule, and we're reopening North Wilkesboro, and we're talking about going to Knoxville Fairgrounds Speedway, and it's like, hey, you got Iowa sitting right there. Pretty good racetrack, might be an idea, because what we've seen with Nashville Super Speedway, the response to putting a track at a race, putting a race at a track with the Cup Series, because really, that is the driver. Like when the Cup Series comes to town, everything else kind of follows. And Iowa Speedway never got a Cup race. You look at Kentucky Speedway, it was going to die, and then they got a Cup race. And then everything changed, and it was better. And then ultimately, it was just a gigantic turd, and had to eventually we had to go away from it because it was the worst track that's ever been built outside of Texas Motor Speedway now that they've reconfigured it. So ultimately, SMI really bad at running tracks, apparently. But Iowa Speedway, they've left that thing alone. It's aged perfectly, and it's a track that puts on tremendous racing in a place that we would really like to go back to.
I think that's the tough part for, people like us that live in Iowa. I don't have a better word, but you almost feel abandoned, because there is some good race fans here in Iowa. I mean, we saw for the IndyCar races last year, a big crowd showed up.
Gigantic.
And yeah, we've lost the trucks and Xfinity at Iowa. We've lost Chicagoland.
We lost trucks at Knoxville too, Caleb. We did a double down on that one.
Well, you should have lost trucks at Knoxville.
Tommy, I have one request for you, Tommy. Go back with 56 to go in the truck race at Knoxville last year. Brett Moffitt got called for jumping the restart. It's the most egregious call I've seen in my life.
Yeah, well, I can tell you the most egregious thing I've ever tried to watch in my life was the ending of the Knoxville truck race a couple of years ago. So
that was yeah.
And with that being said, as the team owner hat that I'm currently wearing, I don't think trucks need to ever go back there ever again. The lowest paid series on a solo trip to Iowa to destroy everything they own. I think they would much rather go to Iowa Speedway as well. That's a perfectly good racetrack. I think we ought to race there.
It's tougher for a blue and white 19 truck to do as much damage as it did that night.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Caleb, you got anything else? Are we good?
I mean, I think that wraps it up. Noah, you got something?
So, you've mentioned the team owner hat that you're wearing right now. And you mentioned, you haven't renewed your license, to drive. Is there a chance that we ever see you back in a car, or are you fully focused on being a team owner now?
I just want to be a great team owner right now. Is the longing there for me to drive? Yeah. But I want Alpha Prime to be successful. I mean, that is my primary goal. This is everything that I do every day, is just to try to make this team as good as I can make it. We know we don't have the budget of some of the people that we try to compare ourselves to. And this is not me saying anything bad at all, but the people we try to race with is Sam Hunt and Jordan Anderson Racing and the AM Racing 25 and the 48, Ryan C. and Clements and all those guys that you consider fringe playoff people. We really want to be that. That's what we want to be. And I'm just probably not going to sleep very well until we are. And ultimately, as a race car driver, I knew that for me to make a living out here doing this, it was going to be pretty tough. The age that I was, Rick Hendrick probably is not picking up the phone and calling me. I think I could be I could be a good race car driver. Could I have continued to try to have a career like Jeremy Clements? I think that was absolutely a path I probably could have gone down. I am so impressed by him and the career that he's been able to have in the Xfinity Series and multiple wins. That's a guy that I considered a peer of mine. But ultimately, I just didn't feel like, I feel like there was just a cap on what we were going to be able to do with Martin's Motorsports and me as a driver. And that's why I went down this path with Alpha Prime. It was a choice that I made to try to be a great team owner, right? Like I felt like I could be a good driver, but I felt like I could be a great team owner. And ultimately, you know, I'm still kind of learning. We're having some bumps in the road, but I feel like I'm kind of on the way.
Going off that, how do you feel that you guys take those next steps to join those other teams?
Organization. I mean, ultimately that's it. I mean, I put all this on myself, Damon. As we expand, it's tougher to be great, right? The bigger you get, the tougher it is to be really, really good. 2 cars into the year last year, I was blown away by the performance that we were able to have in our cars with some of the drivers that we had in there. We have great drivers, and we still do have great drivers. But I also think I got to be realistic with how the field in Xfinity got a lot better in 1 year, with Cole Custer coming back to the Xfinity Series, and you know, the 00 firing up again, and then you look at Brett Moffitt in the 25 car being there, the 48, Parker Kligerman being there full time. I've never seen more full time drivers in the Xfinity Series ever than this year. You look at Sam Hunt, how they grew, Jordan Anderson, how they grew, and they have just been so good. Josh Williams, the 92 car, with some of the sponsorship he's been able to raise and doing a great job. I mean, it's just time and time again, good car, good car, good car, good car. And it just feels like it's just gotten harder than it's ever been. And we got to rise to the challenge. I mean, that's all it is. It's just managing people, getting the best people you can and getting the best drivers you can. I mean, it's really pretty simple formula. We've had to move people around quite a bit. We've had a lot of kind of moving parts on the inside of the team. And with that, I think comes a little bit of inconsistency. I feel really good about where our team's at right now. And I feel like really if last year is a judge, I would tell you, we started off the year last year like crap. I mean, we started off terrible, and I had to make some personnel changes and make, big swings at it. And I felt like I learned a whole lot kind of in that first third of the year. And you look kind of down the back end of the year, kind of how we were able to go. I almost had to kind of learn how to be the manager of a 2-car team. And I feel like this year I'm kind of having to learn to be the manager of a 3-car team. And I have confidence that I'll be able to figure it out. And I have confidence in the people that we've hired here that they're going to be able to figure it out too.
Well, I think that's all we got for you, Tommy. Thanks again. Obviously, it's been a super long week for you, so it means a ton to us that you're willing to come on here and talk to us for an hour on a random Tuesday night. So appreciate you a ton for that. And if we ever figure out how to get an Xfinity race at Iowa again, we want to be the first to throw a big post-race party for you guys.
You want to see something that'll make me come out of retirement? If we're racing at Iowa Speedway, that's one that's near and dear to my heart.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
thank you very much, Tommy.
Safe travel.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys, we now welcome on a very special guest. It is the 2021 National Open winner over at Williams Grove, the owner of 3 World of Outlaws wins this season in a series leading 24 top 10s and the World of Outlaws points lead coming into this week. It's Carson Macedo. Carson, thanks for taking the time, man.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be on.
So all the late model fans that listen to this are going to be pissed off. I've texted Bobby Pierce. He didn't want to come on before the race. He thought it was going to jinx him before the Dirt Late Model Dream this week. I need your dream winner prediction, Carson. Do you pay attention enough to late models to throw one out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to, root against Jonathan Davenport at Eldora. He's pretty extraordinary there. I mean, he's won how many World 100s, the Eldora Million. He's just, really decorated. But Yeah, I don't know like a whole lot of late model guys as far as like on a personal level, but I'd probably say my prediction would probably be Davenport. I think that Devin Moran is pretty good. It seems like he has a pretty good shot. I want to say that who's the 78 cars? That's Moran, isn't it?
That's no Moran's in the 99 this year, right, Damon?
Okay, no. So
Yes.
who's in the 78? Big Sexy or whatever they call it.
Oh,
Oh,
76,
Overton.
Overton.
Yep.
Overton, that's the one I'm talking about.
When you
Okay,
get into
yeah.
those numbers that are that big,
Yeah.
you really got to pull, because if you're like one off, you were
Yeah.
throwing my mind. I thought you were going with Ross Bales, and I was like, I don't know if
No.
I've seen that guy win a race in 3 years.
No, Brandon
No disrespect, but
he rips at Eldora too. I feel like his
He does.
stuff's really good at Eldora. Overton. That Chris Madden.
Yep.
I would say probably them three guys seem like they're elite at that place and always seem to run really good. But that's who I meant was Brandon Overton.
Yeah.
all good. Out of all those guys, or out of all the late model guys, which one would you choose to drink some beers with by a fire?
Man,
We're hitting hard questions earlier on this one.
Probably Gordy Gundaker. Like I've had a lot.
See, he's at the top of my list too.
Yeah, Gordy's a good dude. I mean, I haven't really, got to like party a bunch with Gordy, but the little amount of time that I've spent with him, he's been a really good dude, and always he's a friend of mine. I just haven't hung out with him a whole lot, like had all night benders or anything like that. But seems like a good dude.
All right, Carson. So the new format for this year's Eldora Million came out today. I got to get this out of the way before we get into it. But are you a big invert guy or no?
Big what?
Are you a big invert guy? Do you like seeing qualify all the time? And
but I'm not I do it for a living. So for me, it's just a pain a lot of the times. I feel like. You see if you guys catch that invert and end up on the right side of it, but for the most part, it's so tough on the World of Outlaw Tour full time. We put a massive emphasis on time trials. So, I mean, for us, our cars are made to time trial well. We've trained ourselves as drivers to time trial well, and so it's really never any good when we have to penalize the guys that time trial well, in my opinion. But ultimately, Eldora is the one putting up the money, and they want to put on a show for the fans.
so if you're listening at home and you're a little confused, they're basically going to take points from the prelim night. Someone's going to spin the wheel of doom that I wish they'd light on fire at some point in the near future. And then the next day, that will invert the heats either by 8, 9, or 10. So an extreme invert, no option of 0. Kind of stinks. I wanted to ask you, Carson, do you think guys, and it's almost a harder skill to do than trying to qualify fast, but do you think guys are going to try to miss the top spot by so much to get in that invert line and get a better spot in turn?
Man, that's so hard to do. I feel like it's just tough to do. I don't know. Maybe I've seen guys try to sandbag in the past and they end up missing the invert. Also, though,
Did Sweet do that at Eldora in the last couple of years?
I know Gravel tried that. I know him in the 41. They gave it a shot and they missed it, and then he had to work super hard in the heat. So I just don't know. I mean, we'll have to see when we get there, but that's the toughest part, right? Like I've said this for a long time. I think that so many people compare the Kings Royal to the Knoxville Nationals, and in my opinion, it's just not even in the same zip code. The Knoxville Nationals pays extremely well throughout the entire field. It's just it's 10 grand to start. Yeah, it doesn't pay 175 to win. It pays, or I think now it does pay 175 to win. So, you can kind of, I shouldn't say luck into it, but you can definitely have luck go your way and give you a really good shot at winning the Kings Royal. Where the Knoxville Nationals, nobody lucks into the Knoxville Nationals. You got to be good all week. You got to perform at your best all week long. You got to put in a good prelim night. You got to run a 50-lap feature at Knoxville, which nobody wins that by luck. So I don't know. I mean, I just think that the Eldora Millions, it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of the same. And I think maybe that's how they get more guys to show up. Giving them the harder. I guess inverts just make it tougher on the guys that are fast. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Do you think that going to Eldora, where generally the racing for the most part's pretty good, I mean, you guys can utilize multiple lanes for the most part. Do you think that that's going to help with the invert if you get stuck being in that 8, 9, 10 spot?
Yeah, I do think that. I do think that it'll help. But man, you see a lot of the times the feature races are really racy at Eldora.
Mm-hmm.
For us and the wing sprint car stuff, I mean, it's tough. The heat races, you see it at the Kings Royal. They try and prep the track a little bit on the slicker side so that we don't have, so we have a racy heat race, which maybe
Sure.
they'll do that too. I feel like they always seem to put it together and make it a really good show, no matter what. So I think the fans are in for a treat. They're putting up $1 million, and we can have our opinions all day, but we're not putting our money where our mouth is. They are, and ultimately we're all going to show up and we're going to try and run for that big prize. And we're all extremely excited about it. I know for myself and for JJR and Philip and Clyde, Nate, and our family, I mean, everybody is pumped. So it should be a great show.
So for you, coming into, I believe they're calling it the Premier Chevy Dealers Clash at Knoxville Raceway, 2 weekends in a row that we've had a clash, and the only California representative we can come up with is you, to resemble the NASCAR Clash. So changing names, all that stuff. But so there's been 6 Outlaw shows at Knoxville over the past 3 seasons. I think you also won a weekly show, but all 6 of those races you finished in the top 5. You've also matched your Friday and Saturday finishes with 2 wins in 2021, 2 fifths last year, and then 3 fourth place finishes in 2020. But you're a guy that always kind of runs really well at Knoxville, and you run really well at the Crown Jewel racetracks. And a lot, obviously that gets the hype up for you and your team going into those races, but there's kind of a different luck level and skill level that comes into those weekends, as opposed to this, you can call it a warm-up weekend, I guess. But what are your thoughts and goals going into this weekend's racing in Knoxville?
Yeah, I think that it's no different than, it seems like all these Crown Jewel, like at least for Eldora and Knoxville, their warm-up weekends never seem to translate over to the Nationals or the Kings Royal, for instance. Like, we'll go there for the Let's Race 2 at Eldora, and it because they have non-wing sprint cars there, it never seems to be the same as the Kings Royal track. And I think Knoxville is very similar. I feel like for whatever reason, I think maybe because we have so many cars, like the 360s are there as well, or I'm not 100% sure why, but it always seems like the track is a little bit different for these races, this 2 race deal than it is at the Nationals. But, in the past, it seems like I've, especially JJR and the 41 team, they've been able to, pivot at both scenarios. It seems like our car's been very good, whether it be those 2 races or whether it be the Nationals. I just feel like the Nationals usually slows down a little bit more. Track doesn't have quite as much meat on the bottom, and you typically see a lot, slicker surface, come August. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I love Knoxville. I mean, it's probably my favorite track, one of my favorite tracks. I know it's one of Philip's favorite tracks. I know he's super excited to get over there, and we're looking forward to it, man. We love Knoxville. We love being there. We love, Dingus. We love everything. So we're looking forward to it. And, our sponsor, Dennis Albaugh in Ankeny, Iowa. He, is very familiar with Knoxville, and I'm not sure 100% if he's going or not, but we're kind of in his backyard, which is special. And anytime we go to Knoxville, we're looking to grab a win.
What is it about Knoxville that you guys just have figured out run so well? I mean, you look back over the years, that 41 car's been in victory lane there a lot over the last few seasons, and yourself being up front a lot and at Knoxville. What is it that you like so well? What is it that Philip likes so well about that track?
I think Phil just has an extremely good package there. I mean, he won nationals with Jason. He's won the nationals with David Gravel. he's really ran good there with multiple different drivers now. And I think for me personally, I like Knoxville a lot. I enjoy racing there. I think Knoxville is like one of the biggest chess games that we have in a racetrack. I feel like you can run an unpreferred lane all the time for the most part if somebody enters in front of you. And it's so much of a diverse chess game the whole race, in my opinion. Like the way guys move around, it's really an art to win there, get around good there, and do a good job consistently. So I think Phil's got an extremely good package. I think he just knows what works there. I think Phil's really good at watching the race car and seeing what adjustments it needs. And when you race on a half mile, you can really see that, which way the car moves around, where in a quarter mile, you're out there cowboying around, and it's harder to see because the car makes a lot of movement based on where the driver's pointing it. I think Phil does a great job adjusting. I think ultimately it's a team effort too. And I think that Phil, has had some really good drivers that have, been able to help him, see what he needs to see with what the car's doing. I think Jason was extremely good at Knoxville as a driver. I know David Gravel has had a lot of success there in several cars and did, the 41 just propelled him to that next level. And I feel like it's done the same for me. I was able to be fast there in the 2 car back at KLR, but never the kind of speed and consistency that the 41 shows there. So, I think Phil makes a good driver look great there, and I'm definitely thankful to be driving the 41. That's for sure.
I alluded to. Oh, go ahead, Damon. You're good.
I was just going to go back to something that really was sticking with me. You talked about how the tracks from Eldora and Knoxville, when you go there the first time for these 2-day shows before you go to the big show, do you feel that those tracks are weather impacted when it comes to it? You get this race this weekend in June, and it hasn't gotten a lot of heat yet on it. Obviously, it's been underwater quite a bit this year so far. But by the time you get to August, you've gone through the entire month of June where we're seeing 90s. You go through the entire month of July where it's 90s. And now, like you said, a lot of tracks going on, or a lot of races going on there in August. Do you think that it's a weather impacted thing as well?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's hotter, obviously, in the month of August and then July when we race at the Kings Royal. So that makes a lot of sense. And that's something that probably I haven't really thought of. I feel like Eldora is actually the opposite of what Knoxville is. So we go to Knoxville earlier in the year. You're right. Like the temperature is typically a little bit cooler. It seems like the track sticks around a little bit more, and we just have more distinct grip or ways to connect grip. And seems like the bottom sticks around a little bit more. And where then we go there in August, and it's usually, tougher to make those grippy patches work because there's not much of that left. And I feel like they're just a week long of everybody racing on that same track, and it's hard for them to keep it that grippy. And then at the same time also just trying to make sure that the Saturday night show is slick and racy, and they don't have a whole lot of time on that track on Saturday. So I don't think that they want any of them prelim races or the final race being wide open. Where we see the total opposite at Eldora. I feel like we go to Eldora and it's earlier in the year, and technically it should be cooler, and you maybe should see the track be faster, but we run 2 classes, non-wing sprint cars and wing sprint cars, and the non-wing cars they just leave nothing left. It seems like every bit of grip is out there that they can find, they use it up, and then it ends up being a total ice skating rink. And then we'll go there, the non-wing cars, the biggest thing I'll say is they depend on the cushion all the way around the corner. So when they enter the corner, they're leaned up against it. They're leaned up against it in the center, and then they depend on it to propel them up off the corner, where we can kind of run down into the corner under our wing and short slide it to get to the cushion, kind of grab it in the center, and then drive back off and make exit speed going straight. And so we don't wear out the entry and the exit too much. And so I think that the track at the Kings Royal typically stays a little bit faster. There seems to be a little bit easier to run the top, just a little bit more connected grip, it seems like. So it's opposites, but it makes for a tricky deal when those races come the month of money.
It's funny.
I just hope those people that are listening to this just heard that. Like, you're a novice sprint car fan, or you've been involved with racing for a long time. That was one of the best explanations of why there's a big difference that I've ever heard. It's awesome.
No, it's funny because I was walking the track with Emerson Axum on Saturday at Knoxville, and he's talking about how the wing guys are going to take the cushion or the berm that they just tilled and completely wipe it away. Like similar complaints, just in the other direction. So it's funny how you said it.
And so are you talking about the cushion or the berm?
No, the berm. I just misspoke.
Yeah, so
Obviously, they're different things. I was just saying it's
totally,
funny.
yeah, it's a totally different deal. Like at Knoxville, the wing guys are going to wear the bottom out, where the non-wing guys really can't. It's just so much harder for them to get their car turned. And if they miss the grip by any small amount, they're sliding all the way to the cushion. So they're most of the time, Knoxville's always won non-wing sprint car racing around the top. I mean, you see Brady go down to the bottom and make it work, or the rubber lays down, but typically everybody's ripping the top. Where wing sprint car race is different. We can run in there under our wing and run the bottom and stick it a lot easier than them guys can in the non-wing sprint cars at Knoxville. It's just so flat. They need banking in order to kind of run anywhere, I think, or a cushion. Like,
Absolutely. Have you and Philip kind of looked at the tracks that have rubbered up a little bit in recent weeks in the Midwest? I know we had that weekend with Jackson, Knoxville, and then Huset's on that Monday race. And I've heard a lot of different reasonings. I feel like you'd be a guy that might know why some of these tracks are rubbering up between the new tires. Is it the really dry weather we're having around here? What do you guys, I guess, think is the answer to that?
Yeah, what's crazy is I actually think that the opposite is happening with the new tires. I mean, I think that the new tires will probably promote less rubber because they're harder compound. Ultimately, they seem to be out of the racetrack more to me than the old tires, where our left rears are smashing through. So, again, it puts you out of the track, and we've had to manipulate our cars, I feel like, to get them back in the track. And I just think that, I don't really know. I mean, I guess you're saying maybe Knoxville and Huset's. Is that mostly what you're talking about?
Yeah, my buddy, actually, he's Knoxville Moths on Twitter, but he sent it to me. He said Jackson on that Friday, Saturday last week at Knoxville, the second of the Memorial Day Huset show, I guess. Tri-State on that Wednesday with High Limit, and then River Cities in Dodge County last Friday, and the non-wing race at the end Saturday at Knoxville. That's the entire list, I guess.
Yeah, so
if that helps you make any more sense.
I mean, Huset's rubbers up all the time, so it's
right.
Like, I mean, that's not really a surprise. I mean, and it's nobody's fault. I think that the Queering family does an extremely good job. I mean, that facility is state of the art. They put in their heart and soul into it to try and make it not take rubber. It just, I don't know why it does that, but it's like the minute that it cleans off, they have to. You see them. I mean, they're trying their best. They're reworking it to try and get it to not take rubber. I mean, at the 100,000 last year or whatever it was, I mean, it was wide open lockdown the first, I don't know how many laps, and then it took rubber at the end. Like, it's hard to control that. Jackson's kind of the same, really. Like, unless Jackson has grip on the bottom to throw dirty track across the racetrack and dirty it up, it's almost a guarantee that it's going to take rubber the minute it gets clean. Tri-City was pretty good, really. I thought, like, Tri-City rubber just right at the end, which is probably the most ideal for a racetrack, really. Like, the track's right, usually the best right before it takes rubber. So if it rubbers up the last 5 laps or whatever, that's pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, Knoxville taking rubber, I just think that's just a lot of cars on the racetrack. If I remember right, I think they had 305s, 410s, and non-wing sprint cars.
It was just 2 on Saturday, but it's still 60 cars.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's just a lot of race cars on the track. They're trying to get the track good, but at the same time, I mean, I think they're trying to get the track good and racy, but at the same time, eventually it's got to clean off and take rubber.
Yeah, and I mean, in the same time too, we could have 2 weekends with no issue, even 2 races this weekend with no issues, and just go around and be like, I guess it was nothing.
Yeah, it would blow me away if it took rubber this weekend.
Yeah, I think so with me too. I know the track guys there do just an insane job. There's a guy named Brad Shear, we're gonna get him on this podcast at some point, but he told me like during nationals he'll go to sleep at 4 a.m., wake up at 7, and then ride his ATV down the racetrack and get to work.
Yeah, crazy.
Damon, you got anything else?
I mean, I guess when you go into this weekend, you're riding the momentum you have been with the point standings and everything on that front. When does it? Because this is a debate Connor always has with all these people is outlaw points too hard to determine early in the year. You're racing for points. When do you start really paying attention to where you're at in the standings?
Oh, I mean, Volusia in February. Every race.
Thank you, Carson. I appreciate it.
Volusia in February. I mean, every race matters. When you look at the World of Outlaw points at the end of the year, there's, it usually comes down to like 2-3 races. I mean, I know for me last year, racers got short memories and they remember everything that's, bad, and the short memory is usually the good time. So, I remember last year we didn't have an engine run at Sharon. We had some issues with nobody's fault. We were light at the scales at the Grove. I wrecked at Cedar Lake. And I wrecked at the Grove. So, those 4 nights, basically, they kept us from winning the championship. So
that was a short memory that you had?
Yeah, well, the good times, right? Like when you're running good, you forget about those nights. It's the ones that you look back and you're like, man, I wish we would have done that different. And ultimately, that's what you do when you're running against Brad and David and Donnie and these guys. I mean, they just don't make very many mistakes, but. Now, okay, so we start, you have to begin with the end in mind, and it's important to think about those things at the beginning of the year. There's no doubt. And every race matters. So you got to start thinking about it at the beginning of the year. You got to race your year to win a championship, or you're never going to win one. But ultimately, the championship is really just the outcome, right? Like that's the outcome goal, is to win the championship. Just like when we show up to the races, the outcome goal is to win the race. But it's all the process goals that we worry about, not the outcome. So the outcome is winning the championship. Yes, that's something that we worry about, and that's something that is the goal when we start the season. But ultimately, we go, how do we win the championship? At JJR anyway, we say, how do we win the championship? Okay, we win the championship by showing up every night and finishing the race. We show up every night and we give our best effort to qualify well so that we can put ourselves in the dash. We put ourselves in the dash, good things are going to happen. We show up every day, and as a team, we get along. We work on what our goals are to be a better team together so that we can accomplish better things. As a driver, for me, I go home, I get my mind right. I talk to a sports psychologist. I go to the gym every day. My guys are getting my car ready. They're not missing a beat. They're making sure every bolt's tight. They're making sure that our engines are running good. They're making sure that everything's right. Those are the process goals that win a championship. And so when we show up in Volusia, yes, that is our goal. But what we're worried about is not the end goal. We're worried about the process and making sure that those things are done so that at the end of the year, we can look at those points and say, okay, well, where do we shake out? We did the process right. We did all these things to 100% the best of our ability. If we don't win the championship at that point, well, then it wasn't meant to be. So that's the way we approach it. And, we're looking forward to, continuing those process goals. I know for me, I'm probably more dedicated and more, physically focused, mentally focused than I've ever been. And, we're just going to keep punching forward. And, ultimately at the end of the day, it's like when I remember one of my first opportunities, I felt like on the big stage when I went and ran the 41 at Knoxville, I said, I'm going to show up there. I'm going to give it my best effort. I'm going to give it my best shot. And if I suck, well, then that's how it was meant to be. So, that's what we do with the championship as well.
Do you still have that dry race board in the hauler?
Yeah, that was
written on it.
We never really edited it because it was sort of just a cool thing, and that's what JJR is all about. I feel like the process was started a long time ago, and we're just kind of continuing that on. So it's good. It's good.
Absolutely. And then you complimented Todd Quering too much on this episode. I was going to see how the rivalry with David Gravel's going, and if we could get like a fake fight set up or anything like that.
Yeah, David would probably love that because he loves media and the social media and all that. David's me and David are friends. We've always been friends. We've always been close, actually. Hung out. I mean, he comes to California. My cousin, now basically married in cousin Drew Warner, is just married my cousin Marissa Facino, and we've always been friends. He'll go stay over there with them, and yeah, it was a weird. I felt like I went online and tried to dissolve the situation. Me and Gravel had spoke at the racetrack. I tried to apologize there online, and his family was super upset, and yeah, but no, I mean Todd, he was at the races last weekend and said hello to me. I think he's a great guy. I think a lot of the two team, I've got nothing but respect for him, and the last thing I want to do is wear him out trying to race for a championship. I wouldn't want him to do that to me, so I felt bad about it, and we just got to move on and keep doing our jobs.
And then on the same lines, and sorry, we left the tough questions for the end. That's on us. We got to get these out of the way sooner. With Cole's accident, was it last week? Was it Schuhart that tweeted that's Macedo, or was that Bill Rose's quote?
Yeah, no, that was Logan. He made that comment, and Cole's just a separate person. You know what I mean? Cole's his own person. Yeah. I have nothing to do with that wreck at all. And that was a weird comment to make. I feel like, in the aspect that I just think that I was running my own race, minding my own business. I mean, really kind of just running a nice, clean race, running second. He got collected, and I think that's just, those comments are made out of personal frustration. At the end of the day, he's not upset with me. He's upset that he got collected. And
right.
So he's gonna make a comment to backlash at me, which is fine. If that makes him feel better at the end of the day, and that makes him sleep better at night, and makes him think that his team's gonna go faster, throwing that kind of stuff out online, saying those kind of things on social media and all that, that's fine with me. It doesn't bother me one bit. That's
right. And you're a guy that, I mean, you remind me a ton of Casey Kane as a kid. I was telling Damon earlier when you went to adjust the lighting in the background for the interview. I said, that's exactly something like 2000s NASCAR Casey Kane would do. And you're never going to overstep and make those statements. So if you need us to make any statements for you, Damon, there's one point where we had 8 episodes in a row where he was trashing Logan and Logan's stats.
Yeah.
And then we had Logan on, and Damon conveniently had an appointment during his interview. So we haven't gotten to set that up, but we can kind of tag team you two with it.
Yeah. I mean, man, it's just sprint car racing in general is this way. No matter how you slice it, when you get to the upper echelon of the sport, you're in the World of Outlaws Tour, there's tons of eyes on you all the time. Nowadays with Dirt Vision and social media gives everybody a voice. Everybody gets to watch every lap. We get to make split-second decisions at 100 and some mile an hour on the racetrack, and we're expected to not only perform well and win races, but also finish races. Don't run into anybody, and make sure you keep everybody happy around you. And that's just not realistic. Though that's fantasy land, and we know that. And so ultimately, we're going to do our very best to make sure that we win races, finish races, and keep everybody happy. But it just doesn't always work out that way. And ultimately, if you have really thin skin and every little tweet that the armchair jockeys sitting at home right on there bothers you, well, then you're never going to get it.
That's you, Damon.
So
okay, all right.
I don't really worry too much about it. It's not even necessarily that. It's ultimately it's just a tough sport, and you're expected to perform, but it's I've always said, like, sprint car racing is the toughest sport because there's just a super fine line between hero and idiot. Mm-hmm. It's 3 wide. You go to the outside. You sweep around 2 guys. You win the race, and he's the best we've ever seen. He's unbelievable. And then that you run that same move next week, and you go to fill the hole. The hole closes up, and you wreck everything, and you destroy $90,000 worth of stuff. And then they're what an idiot. We would never hire him. Clown. So it's a tough deal.
All right, and then last thing for me is what is one thing Carson Macedo has to do to win the World of Outlaws championship this year?
Just stay focused. I mean, ultimately, like I said, just process goals. It's a process, and that's what we're going to continue to do is just stick to the process.
Damon, you got anything else?
I'm good. This has been good, and certainly looking forward to seeing what you got this weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, Carson. Appreciate you.
Right on. Take it easy. See ya.